This last plenum had focused itself in assessing very thoroughly our performance in the last years of the implementation of this 5 years plan. It was a session in which we pinpointed the glaring shortcomings in the performance of this 5 years plan. We're quite open and we were quite unsparing in leveling the necessary criticism where the criticism should go. It was essentially self-criticism. We're criticizing ourselves.
These reforms are encouraging. We hope they're going to work. And if they do, it might open the door for further movement toward what I would call greater reliance on market mechanisms.
We have also tried to resettle people in different parts of the country where we felt there will be more potential for food production. I have read in the media that some of our settlement programs were not on the right track. Well, it was not to our satisfaction either. Anyone who tries to do things can make a mistake. Sometimes when you try to put a nail on the wall, you hit your hand with the hammer, your own hand. So some such mistakes can occur sometimes. But we are willing to recognize this and correct them and take corrective measures and find solutions to these problems.
The United States government did not oppose and does not oppose resettlement. In fact, many years ago, 15 or 20 years ago, I think we worked together with your government in trying to develop resettlement programs. And I think for any of us who have traveled over the Central Highlands in Ethiopia or northern Ethiopia and seen the difficulties that the farmers have there in trying to produce a grain crop to feed themselves and their family from year to year, can understand why resettlement could make very good sense in this country. But it's those aspects of the resettlement program that from our perspective were either involuntary or coercive that led us to object to those elements of the resettlement program.
There are some fairly large and fertile parts of this country that aren't populated or are underpopulated, not unlike our own frontier. And if there were proper inducements for a voluntary movement of people to move into, we'll call them virgin lands, if you will, like if there was the equivalent of a Homestead Act, it could move people off of marginal lands, particularly in the more densely populated areas of the north, and give these people greater opportunities. People know a good thing when they see it, and they don't have to be PhDs or even know how to read and write, but if they know that there's going to be clean water, the possibility of receiving medical assistance, education for the kids, and some fairly good land, they're going to make that kind of a movement. Now, I think one of the problems that took place both within the resettlement program and the villagization thing is that proper preparations weren't made. The inducements weren't there.
I believe that relying on our own resources, we can do it. But there is a problem. You see, there is a competition of resources right now in this country. There is something that is eating up a considerable proportion of the country's resources. These are the wars, especially in the north. Now, for a poor country like Ethiopia, the war in Eritrea and in Tigray and in some parts of Wollo are extremely expensive. They are really costing us a lot. Every day we're spending millions of birr. Now, this is the problem. Now, we have to resolve this problem somehow. Those on the other side will have to come to their senses. And the government here too will have to come to its senses and somehow find a political solution.
Despite these many problems, Today, there is a new sense of possibility emerging for Ethiopia, including the possibility for an improvement in relations with the United States.
From our perspective, we would certainly, I think, welcome the possibility and opportunity of greater dialogue with the government of Ethiopia, and we certainly look forward to that in the future. I think if one looks back over the history of the last decade or so of our bilateral relations, we find that perhaps we haven't had the opportunity to talk as much as we could have or should have.
Americans are not strangers to Ethiopia, nor are Ethiopians strangers to Americans, and they have a long-standing tradition of harmonious links and friendship in the past.
አሁን ደግሞ ያለው ዓለም አቀፋዊ ሁኔታ እንደምናየው ኢትዮጵያና አሜሪካ
What we are witnessing in the world today is a global rapprochement. The Ethiopian and the United States relationship is really a minor incident, a minor phenomenon. It's not something that should take us such a long time to mend. I have expressed my optimism that now, given the new leadership in the United States and the generally favorable developments of events in the world, things are sure to be mended between our two countries. So we can strengthen the diplomatic links that exist between our two countries. We can start contacts at different levels. We can discuss to solve some outstanding problems. I don't see these issues to be unsurmountable.
It's necessary for me to deliver a short quotation from recent Comrade Gorbachev's speech at the General Assembly session. He said that a new world is emerging today. We are entering an era when progress will be based on the common interests of the whole of mankind. And the realization of this fact demands that mankind's common values should be the priority determine world politics.
20 years ago, in the mid-60s, we saw the initiation of the so-called Green Revolution in Asia. And we saw, over the last 2 decades, an extraordinary change in the economies and in the agricultural economies of a large number of countries in Asia. In the mid-60s, when there was a terrible famine in India, people thought that that country could never support a population of 500 million, much less the, 750 million who are there now. And not only are they supporting that population, there's a significant grain surplus over the last several years. Certainly there is no reason to believe that the same kind of development miracle can't occur in Africa.
Ending hunger in Ethiopia. It will not be easy. Resources will have to be reallocated. Priorities will have to be shifted. It will require courage, leadership, and a commitment which can survive the inevitable setbacks and failures. The accomplishment of preventing a famine has taught us that drought does not necessarily mean disaster. Now, joining with the courageous and determined people of Ethiopia in their effort to end their hunger once and for all, can teach us what it truly means to be human.